Hey team, I just wanted to make a quick video for our worship leaders and MDs on our Abelton sessions for the weekend and just give you a quick rundown so that you can quickly navigate through it and hopefully resolve any issues that you might come into on a Sunday or a Tuesday rehearsal. In this video, we are going to break down loading a weekend session both from the drive and from the desktop, audio and MIDI connections, send and returns, and the routing of those. We're going to talk about click and pad, how to trigger that, and transitions, how I build transitions from song to song, and what you could do if you have to make slight changes to it. So I'm going to separate this video into those categories in chapters at the bottom here. So if you need to skip ahead to one of those parts, you can. But let's go ahead and jump right on in. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is loading a session. So typically if you walk in on a Tuesday or Sunday rehearsal, it should already be pulled up. If it's not, it should definitely already be downloaded. When it's downloaded, it'll download to a folder like this, the date. So in this case, June 16th, 24. And then it says master project. Okay. If you open up that folder, so this is just a screenshot of the church's desktop. So you can see exactly how it looks on Orland Park's desktop, for example. Hopefully a lot of this stuff will get cleaned up by the time you ever open anything on the desktop because it's super dirty. It's got all sorts of files. But when you open that folder, it's going to look like this. It should say the master ALS, and then it should also have your campus as well. So you would open your campus ALS. If it's not on the desktop and you then have to go into the actual Google Drive to download this, what you would do is this. And this isn't so much for MDs as it is for worship leaders. You go to Google Drive. You're going to go to the shared drive. You're going to go to Stage Max. You're going to go to Worship. I'm actually going to jump over real quick to just the actual drive itself. It's a little bit larger here. So once we get into Worship, we're going to go to weekend sets down here. 2024, June, and then we'll do the 16th. And you're going to see the master project zip, which is the main big file. That's 5.8 gigs in this case. And then you're going to see your campus sessions, which is right here. And those are super small. The reason why I do this is that way I can actually upload this master zip with all this content in there well in advance, and then any changes we make to the sessions I can day of the rehearsal or day before upload those in their much smaller files, so we can make those changes and not have to be moving large 6 gig files at a time over the drive. Now once you download the master zip, you're going to have to unzip it so that again it looks like this. And then you're going to want to open it, and you're going to want to copy and paste the campus session into the master project folder. So the session there has to be in the master project folder. So for example, again, it has to be like this. These campus sessions have to be inside the master project folder. Once they are, it'll reference all the samples that are in that master project folder that it needs for that session. Okay, cool. So that's how you load a file in from the desktop or from the drive. Once you load it, it should look like this on the computer. It's going to look a little bit different on the church's computer because the church's computer is going to be connected to the Play Audio 12. So it should actually look like this. I took a screenshot of that as well. Here we are. It will have, we'll hide that sidebar. It will have, basically everything will be the same except for these right here. These outputs should be going to different numbers. So 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. The time code should be going to 8. And so the reason why is because everything that's getting sent to the board has to go through an interface, the Play Audio 12, and we have to assign which channels it's going to come down so that the board receives it and it's lined up in their channels correctly. So we're going to talk about that in our routing section. So we talked about how to load a weekend session. Let's talk about our audio and MIDI connections first, and then we'll get into our routing. Okay, so if the loop to doesn't work, it's probably because it's not connected properly or because it's on the wrong channel. So the first thing I want you to check is make sure that the bank is in bank 1, not bank 7 or 6 or 5. So it should say on the loop to itself 1, and then when you click number 1, it should say 1A. If it doesn't, then you need to change on the triggers to the right side of that pedal to go to bank 1. If it still doesn't work, then we gotta make sure that it's connected or programmed. So hit this MIDI button here, and that open the sidebar, and that's going to show us if it's actually programmed and assigned correctly. And in this case it is, and it should pretty much always, because I use the same template every single week that I build. But if for some reason that doesn't happen, it gets reset or something, then you can watch another video on how to program the loop to miss to Abelton. Most worship leaders know how to do this though. So now that I know that it is, it's just not receiving it somehow. So what we got to do is we got to go into audio and MIDI setup. So that's going to be on the dock on the church's computers. I'm just going to search it here in the search bar though. Once we get that, we're going to want to open up the MIDI studio, and then we're going to want to click on this this globe right here to configure the network drivers, and you're going to get this screen here. Now I'm not connected to Play Audio 12 or the Loop to Miss right now, so you're not seeing any MIDI connections here. However, on the church's computer, again, let me just open that on. It's going to look like this. Oops, wrong one. Nope, that's a chord chart. Let's try this again. It's going to look like MIDI and audio. Here it is, like this. And you're going to see that we have the Play Audio 12 as participants, and we have the Mayo, which is the Loop to Miss, as participants. If they're not participants over here, you need to select them from the list and double click on them. You want it to be 0, 1 for both. Okay? And then it will connect it. And now we should have a connection with the Loop to Miss and Abelton, and we should have that problem resolved. Okay, next we're going to talk about the sends and returns and how tracks are being routed to the front of house. So real quick before I do that, there's two views in Ableton. There's what we're in right now, which is called the Arranger view, and that's where we can arrange all of our tracks into songs and our time code and everything. But then we also have our session view right here. If I click this, it's going to open up this session view. This is kind of like a behind the scenes view, okay? And this behind the scenes view is an easier place to access some of this routing of these individual tracks. So I'm going to show you them here, but we can still do it in Arranger view as well. So if I open up a song here, every single track in a song group is going to be going out sends only. So all of these should say sends only. And they're all going to be turned on and activated. Now what that looks like in the Arranger view is this. All of them are activated right here. Okay, on the side. And if you want to see where they're being sent, you can drop the down arrow and all of them are being sent to a sends only. If something isn't getting sent to a sends only, it's probably because I forgot to do it, to be honest with you. And you can let me know that. If something's muted, the only thing that should be muted are just the background vocals, because we don't use those at all on any weekend. So I just mute them. But everything else should be activated. So you might be confused when you look at this, because you might be saying, well, wait a second, isn't every single instrument then going to be sent to front of house? Well, no, they are going to be all activated and they're all going to be all sent somewhere, but they're going to be sent to the sends. So let's go back to our session view. The sends are right here, the tracks, the drum send, the bass send. And then I have to decide whether or not they're going to be on or where they're going to get sent to. Okay, so the way that they get sent to those sends is through these volume faders right here. So drums are being sent to the drum track right here, B. Our percussion is being sent to tracks because it's a track support instrument, so it's going to be sent there. Okay, so I do all that myself before I even before I even make the session. To be honest with you, I do that so that as soon as I drop it in the session, everything is set up to get sent to one of these return tracks. What you need to know though is, are those return tracks getting to the board in the right buses right here, and are they activated or deactivated? So if you're hearing all the instruments, it's probably because all of these are activated. So you'll have to turn off everything but tracks, because that's what we want to have come through, and choir. Okay, everything we want is tracks and choir. Everything else is just muted by or being deactivated here. Okay. If you don't have a bass player that week, the great thing is you can just click that, and now the bass is on for every single song. If you don't have your piano player or your acoustic, you just click this. Your acoustic guitar player parts are right there for every single song. So that's the great thing about it. Okay. Next, we have to make sure that they're going out the right channels to the board. So we can control that here. These have to get sent out 3 and 4. So I have them labeled here, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. They're just not being sent out 3 and 4. So if your front of house isn't getting sound from these tracks, it's probably because they're not getting sent out the right channels. So I cannot select 3/4 right now because I'm not connected to Play Audio 12, but I already showed you how that looks at the church. So their Abelton set does have all of those being sent out 3/4. So you can see right here, everything's being sent out 3/4, except for the choir, which gets sent out 5 and 6. So that's where we send our choir tracks. Our time code should be sent out 8. Our clicks should be sent out 1. And our guide should be sent out 2. So those are what we need every single channel to be set up for. Everything else doesn't matter because it should be assigned to go to one of these return tracks. And then it will get redirected correctly. All right. We talked about loading a set. We talked about our audio MIDI controls. We talked about sends and returns and how to route them. Let's talk about our click and pad section. All right, this is something new I'm trying to work on still, but I want to get it in the video nonetheless. So this over here is just a blank click and a pad of your choice, okay? So if we can activate this through 5 on the loop-to-miss. So 5 on the loop-to-miss is going to activate our click, and a pad will just fade in, and you can underscore over the top of this. You can play a refrain maybe from a previous song with this, maybe an intro that's not already programmed in Ableton. You can do it with this click and pad loop over here, and then trigger to go to whatever song you need it to move to. Now, the way that this is programmed is that there's just a tempo section here, a click here, and then an actual pad audio file. So one, you got to make sure that it's the right key. So I have the E pad, but if I wanted to change it, I would go into session, and right here under pads, I would choose what I want. So let's say I want C. I'm going to click on C. I'm going to push Command C to copy it, and then I'm going to delete the one that's there, and then Command V to replace it with the pad C. Now it's going to play our pad in C as opposed to E. So that's pretty basic. We got to choose the right key, right? Next, tempo. How do we change tempo? Well, tempo is right here. This is our tempo track. If I double click on our tempo track, it's right up at the top here, I'm going to have a BPM section right here. I can change that to, let's say, we're going to change it to 120. Sure, why not? So 120. You would just type it in here. Let's actually do 105. So I'm going to type in 105, enter. And now I need to hit this button twice. Lead changes to follow, change it back to lead. So that's going to trigger that it's a different tempo now. So check this out. Much quicker tempo, right? Okay. Now, because I changed the tempo, though, you'll notice that the amount of time it takes up is less time. Okay. Before, if you look here, it was the same amount of measures, but it took up more time of our track, almost the whole entire track, because I had already pre-programmed it that way. So you might have to change your locators here so that your fade out sounds better. I'm still working on how to solve this fade out issue, but basically I don't want the track to just stop when we hit stop. So what I'm trying to get it to do is set up a command here that'll send it to the fade out, and then it will slowly fade out. And that's a much smoother transition, right? But I haven't found a trigger on the loop-to-miss to program this to yet, but in the future it will be available. Cool, so that's how we can use our click and pad section. So if you ever need that program, just ask me to program that and set that up for you. But it's always an option for us to use. Let's talk about transitions. So at the end of a song, we have transitions. Either we're going to move to a new song or we're going to stop. So we're going to talk about both real quick. I'm going to try to do this quickly. The way I do transitions, I use these MIDI commands. These MIDI commands are found in the session view here. I have them pre-programmed. Jump to whatever song you need it to jump to, or stop. Okay. If you need a song to stop, we would just hit Command C on the stop MIDI command, and then we're at the end of the song, Command V. Now, at the end of this song, it's just going to stop the Ableton session from continuing to play. Okay. Probably should put one of these actually at the end of my pad section over here, just in case we do use it and it does fade out. We should have it stop. Otherwise, it'll keep running, and it'll take a long time to get there, but eventually it'll hit song run 1. So if you don't turn it off yourself. You can always stop it yourself on the pedal, but if you don't, that would just keep running. So if we're going to jump from one song to the next, though, this is how I build my transitions. I would just go to my session view, copy what I need. So in this case, like Command 2, so Command C, which is going to give me my jump to song 2. And I'm just going to paste that where I want it. So if I want it to jump earlier, I can paste it there. Where I have it jumping right now is right here. So let's look at how this works.
1, 2.
So it just jumped from all the way over here to all the way over there, which is our next song. And that's how I do my transitions. Now, I do also have to bring with it the remaining tracks so that it doesn't just stop all sound. So if I didn't bring those remaining tracks like this, it would just sound bad. It's going to jump and everything shuts off, right? So I also had to bring my tracks with it. So let me show you. I'm going to build a new transition here. Let's say we wanted this transition to be shorter. I'm going to move this up right to the ending so that it starts the transition way quicker. And then I'm going to go to beat number 2 of that measure, because it's going to take 1 quarter note for this to actually trigger, and then it's going to jump after the trigger. So I'm going to take from here, beat 2, all the way to the end. And I can even go over if I want. Command C to copy all of that. I'm going to hit 2. So now I'm lined up at song 2, and I'm going to paste it. Command V. Now it'll bring the tracks from where the jump happens. So check it out. Perfect. However, it's too long. It's still fading and the other song has already started. So what we have to do here is, well, we're going to have to cut quite a bit. So I'm just going to go all the way to the end, drag until I get to where my intro starts, even just slightly after if I want. I'll delete all that. I'm going to open this and I'm going to create a fade now. So I'm going to click outside the track, drag over all of them. Now I can't have the entire track because it won't fade. So I have to go back just a little bit, one, and I hit Option Command F. And now it just made a fade. So now this transition is much shorter and it's going to sound like this. And it's going to fade out
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
right when the acoustic and the piano come in. So that's how we build our transitions. Now you don't really have to build transitions, but now you understand how they're built, and you can edit them if you need to. I would double check with me first, but if you need to, and it's time constraint and it has to happen right then and there, you can always edit those transitions. But at least you know how they're built. And lastly, if you did want to, like in this transition, for example, I added a warm pad to make that transition smoother. This is going to be a little bit more complicated, but I'll show you how you can do that. All right, so here's the end of the song 2. It's going to jump to song 3. It's going to fade out those tracks and fade in the pad. Easy. If you want to add a pad to a transition, what you do is, I'll add it to this song over here. I'll add it to the intro here on song 4. I'm just going to open this up first to make it easier to paste. I'm going to go to my session view, just like we did before. I'm going to grab what pad I want. So whatever key we're in. So this song is, what is it? Lord, I Need You in B. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a pad in B. I'll click on it, Command C, copy it, drop it right at the beginning of this. So right at 4, Command V. And then I want to shorten this actually, because it's going to go through the whole entire song. I don't want it to. So a couple ways you can do that. You can click and drag to shorten it. That's one option. Or another option is you can always just go to where you want it to stop. So I'm gonna want it to stop right around the verse. So I'm gonna go right here and click there and hit Command E. It's gonna cut it, and then you can click on the remaining and delete that remaining one. Okay. This is how we can add that pad at the time value that we want. However, it's going to, again, be a very abrupt ending. So I'm going to click and drag to where I want the fade to start. And then I'm going to hit Option Command F, and it's going to start that fade. Now, this is what song 4 sounds like.
1, 2.
We have that pad.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then the guitar comes in.
Verse.
and that pad fades out. And the other pads take over. So that's how we can add in a pad if there's dead space. Cool. That's it, guys. I think we covered everything that we wanted to in our video. We did loading a weekend session, audio MIDI setup, sends and returns, click and pad, and transitions. Hopefully this makes it really easy for you guys to use Ableton. I tried to keep it similar to how we used playback and give the same sort of flexibility that playback gave us on the spot, so that you guys can, you know, set your transitions if you need to. You guys can have a click and guide section if we need to add that chorus or whatnot, so we can quickly identify where our routing and buses happen for our groups, and we can quickly turn on and off instrument groups. So hopefully that helps us to have a smooth Sunday and a smooth rehearsal. Honestly, I can't be at every campus on every Tuesday or every Sunday, so there's going to be a little bit of a responsibility on the worship leaders and the MDs to understand at least this in depth for Ableton. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching.